This is a discussion with Sherif Kamel, Dean of American University of Cairo Business School. Sherif, thank you very much for taking time. The first question we had for you is, what is for you the future of business education?
Thank you very much, Ben. The future of business and management education would relate to the developments that are taking place in society. So I don't think there is one size fits all. We're going through continuous transformations in society, and even society change, whether we're talking the global north, the global south, but also there are elements that are common, but also there are elements that are different between different regions. And the future of management education should be flexible, should be adaptive to the local context, but at the same time looking at the global picture. Digital transformation will definitely play a role, but also the relevance of the content that is being delivered and how this is impacting in a timely fashion society will be extremely important. What do the future leaders, entrepreneurs, policymakers, change agents need to know? Not just in terms of academic degrees, but also skill sets and capacities, so they can remain agile, adaptive, resilient, to navigate not just the challenges that are out there and will keep coming, but also turn them into opportunities for companies, for societies, for people, and for the whole planet.
Thank you. What is, in your opinion, the role of business school in the wider society?
I think the business school in every society is an element or a building block, or like a piece in a jigsaw puzzle where the other institutions play an important role. So private sector, civil society, government, but also business schools within the world of higher education play an integral role, because they are the factory that, in a sense, create knowledge, but also shapes leaders of tomorrow. So they cannot be distant from the players that they're going to feed them in the not too distant future with the movers and shakers. So they play an important role in society. They can sort of prepare the caliber that is going to make a difference in society tomorrow with content that is relevant and that is useful to the community. Again, we live in a global environment. We're very much interconnected regardless of time and distance barriers. Yet again, there are always sets of norms and values and cultures that are probably society-centric. And when I talk about society, I don't talk even about regions, because sometimes even within Africa, even within Europe, even within the US itself, I mean, the Midwest is different than the East is different than the West. Again, there are similarities, but there are sometimes elements that are very much localized. And I think the business schools within society, working with different stakeholders, should shape up the future graduates with a very much a sense of a local context, but also an orientation of what's happening around the world.
Thank you. How can business school make sure that they stay relevant for the students and employers?
That's a very interesting question. Staying relevant is very at what happened over the past, and I would only say past 5 years, 6 years. I'll even stretch it to 8 years, since 2015, with the development of SDGs. So if you look at business and management education at heart, it has always been geared towards shareholders' interest, growing enterprises, the revenue elements, how can we grow the business, how can you look at profits, and so on and so forth. But then the world is facing so many challenges, and business schools shape the leaders who could end up anywhere. And there is a very important societal element that should be integrated in what they get exposed to, what they read, what they learn throughout their journey. So we still need to be focused on the DNA of business schools, but there is a very important growing societal element that has to be well integrated, not just by scratching the surface or in a cosmetic way, where the future leaders still look at the interests of the companies, but also have the interests of the people and the interests of society. They have to be sort of good citizens in the community where they are. So if you look at the notions that we integrate in our curriculums today, besides the fourth industrial revolution, the AI, the machine language, and all these elements, but also the SDGs, also the elements of climate, governance, the environmental in general, and governance, the issues related to equity, inclusion. I think the business schools of tomorrow, to remain relevant, somehow they have to look at all these elements and not just fit them in the courses, but in a holistic way, seamlessly integrate them so you have a well-rounded potential graduate that understands the dynamics, is still focused on the objective, the purpose they have, but also the elements of society is very much part of his thinking or her thinking, so that they have a good role in transforming lives and livelihoods.
Thank you. How should business school look at their reputations?
Reputation is, to me, is always represented through the graduates. Where they go, they study for 4 years or 2 years if they're in a graduate program, or a year even sometimes, but they stay ambassadors for their alma mater for life. How they represent, how they perform in their different walks of life. People always ask, where did they study? I mean, they studied in X or Y or Z university. So the reputation is definitely manifested through the graduates, how they impact the organization they work at, how they deal with their workmates, how they realize the objectives where they end up working, or the movements they do throughout their careers. But also it's reflected into the curriculum that is being offered, the degrees that are being offered, the ranking of the business school, the accreditations of the business schools, the partnerships that the business school have. So the more diverse, the more the more, not just diverse, but the more, I want to say, local. So the more impactful within the community of the business school, and the more partnership they have globally, so that the students are exposed to different cultures, I think the more the graduates will be polished, well-rounded individuals who would represent a good reputation for the business school.
Thank you. What will be for you the 5 biggest challenges facing business school in the coming years?
So the biggest challenge is to remain relevant, because sometimes you can't just fit everything in the same box. And sometimes you want to focus on one element, be very strong in it, and sort of let go the others, or focus on 2 and let go the others. But definitely remain current and relevant is an important issue. 2, I think an important challenge for business schools is that they should not only be focused on the degrees they offer, but also the extra curricular activities and the level, depth, and importance of the skill sets and capacities they develop within their graduates on campus and off campus through their partnerships with industry, civil society, and others. So that's another element. The third is navigating the best model after going through COVID. What is the best model for the future? We're talking about the future of work. So how is this reflected in the future of learning? Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be fully online, which I don't think so. It has to be somehow in the middle, but where? I think that's a challenge, and I think everybody's toying with that idea. And I'm a believer that with my technology background, Going online is not just taking the material and giving it through an online platform. It requires complete different dynamics. Sometimes even faculty needs to be trained, needs to be ready. I'm assuming that students will always be ready or readier than the faculty, given the digital natives we have these days. Another element that pops up all the time and maybe needs a redefinition of what we mean by that is the element of internationalization. So what do we mean by that? Not anymore, I think we should focus only on the number of international students, but the content, the approach, the partnerships, the students, but also the faculty, whatever that the core element in a business school, which is the student or the learner, that gets exposed. If we go post-COVID into an element of more online, the dynamics are different than you sit with someone in the same room and understand how they think, how they react, their body language, and so on. So that will be an element on coming up with an effective definition of how internationalization should be and how effective it can contribute to the learning process. A fifth challenge would be the business model of business schools. Business education, at least in many parts of the world, is becoming more and more expensive. And to bring in the best and offer the best education possible, I think prices will keep on climbing. So business schools should always be looking for endowment, for sponsorships, for support to be able to within and I'm talking here of a not-for-profit environment, which I think is extremely important. Sorry about that. Should keep on looking for resources to diversify the revenue channels to be able to keep with the changes taking place.
Well, thank you so much, Sherif. Thank you for your insights.